Thank you for coming on the show. Andrew, tell us your story.
I'm the Chief Compliance Officer for ALC, American Lending Center Regional Center System.
I was the former Chief Economist of the EB-5 program and actually recently joined ALC, the American Lending Center, as the VP of Global Communications.
I joined the Immigrant Investor Program Office in DC in 2013. In that role, I actually was asked to be the project lead to implement the Reform and Integrity Act when it was passed in 2022. I don't know if you knew this, but that was a big surprise for USCIS. I helped set up policies and procedures for how the new IPO would process cases. We started seeing a need to develop a compliance operation for the regional centers because at that time there was a lot of fraud and a lot of abuse going on in the system.
I think the industry is still recovering, right? There's a lot of reputational damage control that had to be done in the EB-5 space. I think the RIA made a significant difference and really cleaned up the program.
The RIA, the Reform and Integrity Act, created these new tools for the government to enforce compliance if needed, but what that's done is it's required regional centers to come around and create their own internal systems. ALC saw that. As far as I know, I'm not certain of this, but I think I'm the first in-house Chief Compliance Officer for a regional center company. Currently, there are 10,000 visas available per year for the entire EB-5 program, and that is 10,000 investors and their immediate family members. That means that in reality, only about 3,500, maybe 4,000 investor applications actually get through. And if we changed that process so that it was the investors are the 10,000 visas and that their families followed as just an extra pool of them, we would have much more involvement, much more growth, much more investment, and the country, the economy, and the immigration system would be much, much happier.
When you think of the overall policies that govern EB-5, it's a lot more complex than some of the other areas because we jump into project development, and at the local level, it works in a lot of different ways. And so one of the avenues is through investment in what are called or termed rural projects. The problem is the way that EB-5 defines rural is not the same as what most other organizations, including the Department of Agriculture, HHS, define rural as. And it's really limiting in that it's stuck in certain areas where you can develop, but there's a huge part of the country, you know, think of the Rust Belt, think of some of the states that really need development. They cannot be included into that rural designation because of the way it's currently situated. So that would be one policy agenda item that I think would be great to push forward.
And that's your background in economics, right?
That's exactly right. And so if you think about it, you know, a lot of people are looking at how do we get development going in these rural areas, and EB-5's a little bit behind. They don't quite have it right.
And do you think that needs congressional approval, or is just a USCIS interpretation?
I think congressional action would be the best way to do it because it would be solid, it would be permanent, at least as permanent as any law is, and it would provide universal guidance across all of the government. In my experience, I've seen how the State Department and Department of Homeland Security are at odds about different requirements. And so if you have congressional action on that, it will solidify it for everyone.
What do you think of the future of EB-5? Will it go away with the Trump $1 million gold card?
That's a great question, and one that we get quite a bit. I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't fully predict exactly where it's going, but from what I'm seeing, and you know, I'm based in Washington, D.C., and so getting a pulse from Capitol Hill, is there really is support for EB-5 across the aisle because it's job creation in senators' backyards that really helps build communities. You know, in the world of EB-5, it's very complex. We put together very complex deals, high-level, complicated finance, and so it's very easy for regional centers that focus on the deals to lose track of the fact that at the end of the day, the investment is tied to an immigration story. There's a family that is really looking to start the American dream here in the U.S.
So I would hope that we could weather through these next few years and just start to really establish a good foundation for reasonable expectations in the immigration system and a path for people who maybe don't have a lot of money to still be able to get through the system without too much challenge or controversy.